Hello y'all, my name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy artist, and today we are going live to teach you how to paint this really cute smiling cat. So I have a big beautiful word, love, up here, and we have our traceable, and I've worked ahead a little bit to show you what to do here, but I'm going to go ahead and lift this up so you can see how it works. So this is our transfer paper that comes with every kit, and everything is available for you at tipsyartist.com. And hello everybody joining me today. Welcome, welcome. I hope you're enjoying this awesome day. We love it. We actually have a lot of snow here today. So it's a beautiful day though. It's a great snow. It's very soft and fluffy. All right, so back to the video here real quick. All right, so we've got transfer paper. Make sure that you do place it with the dull side, the gray side facing up, and then the shiny side facing down. And then I have two pieces here together. I always give you a lot of variety with your words. If you want a different word, you can do that. So I pieced this together, and then let's go ahead and flip it up here. So at first, when you apply pressure, because basically you just trace over the whole thing, it's super easy to use, and then it will look like graphite. Basically just the same way a pencil looks, that's how it will look on your canvas. And then your kit also comes with a permanent marker, so then I go ahead and go over every single step here. And then this is basically what it looks like before you're even going to start your painting process. So again, our motto is fun and easy, and we definitely try to make it as fun and easy as possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and go with our paint next. So your kit has a painting kit, so I've got starting with some titanium white and some Mars black here. So I'm going to go ahead and mix these two together. I'm going to start with the biggest brush first. So this is my mama brush. She's a 1/2 inch flat here. I'm going to pick up a nice big dollop of the white. There that is. And just a tiny little touch of the black. So just barely touch into that black. Tiny bit goes a really long way. Let me go ahead and show you how that looks there. And hello, welcome everybody. All right, so we have created a beautiful soft gray. So I'm going to start with a lot of that. And then I also keep my white nearby too, because I'm going to be mixing that in back and forth as I go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take my mama brush. I'm just going to kind of push this back and forth, make tiny little X's all over the canvas here. Now there's a couple of different ways that you can do your transfer process. You can actually just paint your entire background first, then you can let that set up and dry, and then you can come back in with your transfer and then do it right over the background. A lot of people who have done this with me before, they usually do that when they know they can do that. So that makes it a little bit easier. I have to deal with time constraints because of filming, so I go ahead and just put all mine on the surface area now, and then the permanent marker will definitely bleed through. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do a light little coat of paint just right over the top, and you can already see how it's starting to bleed through, and then I'll just basically go back over that and touch it up whenever I'm done. And the main reason why I do that, and encourage y'all to do it too, is so that you don't have to do all that really time-consuming cut-in work. So we like to keep this process very relaxing, because that's another part of this process that's very important, is definitely to be very relaxed. So we consider this to be a form of therapy. Helps take away all of our anxiety and worries, and just helps us feel very normal. And the main thing that I hear a lot from people is that they just don't really, they just feel normal. So they just basically lose all their worries and concerns, and they just lose themselves in the painting process. So that's definitely where we want you to be with all this. All right, so I'm just continuing on with lots of little tiny X's just back and forth. And since this has so much white pigment in it, it definitely has really great coverage over the surface. And this is my smiling cat template. The model for this cat is an adorable little cat named Lucy. All right, so smiling cat. I also have a smelly cat too. It's a painting inspired by friends. All right, so again, just lots of little X's. And if you have to, remix a little bit, you certainly can. I just barely touch into a little bit more black, add that to our white, just push back and forth here. And I like to keep that texture going in our background, just lots of fun texture here. Now I will cut in around the cat, but that's super easy because that cat shape is so big. It's really easy to cut in around this. Now when I do start the cut-in work, I do change how I hold the brush. So right now I'm holding it more over to the side, flat side of the brush. That helps that flat side apply paint lightly on the canvas so it makes it more of an opaque finish. And then when I do my cut-in work, then I want to make sure that I hold the brush a little bit more like a pencil, and then this helps me cut in around those line edges. So in this cut-in around this cat is very easy because we don't have a lot of little tiny spaces to work into. So once I get that line work done around the edge, which again, this is just a really light, pretty heather gray, then I can go ahead and go back to filling in, and I'll just turn that brush more over to the side and just crisscross back and forth. So we made, let's see, I did 3 more cat painting kits this last week. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so I'll be teaching a lot of cat paintings. I've had a lot of crazy cat ladies out there making requests. And so we made some really fun new designs. And we've always had some up on our website, but I made a lot more this week. And this one has definitely been the favorite this week. And I think it's just because she has such a cute expression on her face, and also because she's a really fun, easy design. Very easy to do. And of course, this background color, you can change it up and do it however you want to do it. So if you want some like turquoise or hot pink or bright golden yellow, I mean, there's all kinds of options. You can also customize the cat to be any color that you want. So we do have a color mixing guide. I always put it in the description down below, so you can always check that out. It also comes with your paint kit too. So we have the color mixing guide all over the website and in every description with our video as well. So if you want to mix up colors, we always make that really easy for you. We are almost done with our really easy background here. And again, just lots of repetition, just little tiny little X's back and forth. And hello everybody, I see people. I always come back afterwards, and if you leave me a comment, I always get to those comments right after the video, answer any questions that you have, and of course say hello to everybody. But thank you so much for being here. All right, so we have our beautiful background done. And then let's go ahead, and I want to briefly talk about this buffalo check pattern we have going on for the collar. So that's another thing you can change up if you're not really into this particular buffalo plaid, or buffalo check as I call it. Then you can always do something else. You could do stripes or solids or whatever. This pattern, I'll include it with the kit. We'll have the pattern actually done on the Traceable just to make it really easy. And then also, if you're at home doing this, those little wooden coffee stirrers are super awesome for this. You can just line them up vertically and then horizontally, and then that can make a really good way to trace for a tiny little buffalo check pattern. So that's a really great way. Or you could even just take a pencil and then just line out on either side, and then just move your pencil as you go. So that's another easy way to do it. Okay, so now Let's go ahead and fill in just that tiny amount of gray right over the buffalo plaid here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little bit brush. This is a little liner brush. I'm going to add a little bit more black to the white. Definitely test it out on your plate first to make sure it's the right shade here. I don't want it too awfully dark, but definitely darker than that heather gray there. And so it's kind of a nice charcoal color. It's right here. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of water to that. And I always encourage people to go ahead and paint on a flat surface, especially when you add a little bit of water. That way you don't have to worry about any water runs, so it makes it a lot easier. And then to keep your nice fine point on the end, you can go ahead and do a little twist into the paint. All right, so you'll twist your brush into a nice fine point. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and just lightly paint into these little quadrants here. And this will help make our little buffalo plaid. So I hear it get called lots of things: buffalo plaid, buffalo check. And this is definitely the 3-part mix of white and then charcoal gray and black. And then I'll also come back in and do a little bit of white over the top too, as needed. Or if you want to make it really easy on yourselves, then you can also just let the white of the canvas be your white. That's super easy. So it just takes a little bit of patience and just holding that brush just like you'd hold a pencil. And then also know that because your kit does come with a permanent marker, or if you have one at home, you can also go over the line work whenever you're done and firm up those black lines at the end as well. People really love permanent marker work with the mix. It's a nice way to create a mixed medium piece, and it really helps make it easier on you. It's great for beginners. So I'm going to do this last one. Here's the one bit of caution though with a permanent marker. You do want to make sure that your paint is completely dry before you use any permanent marker, or else it'll just kill your permanent marker. And that's really sad, but it does happen. So the minute that Sharpie hits wet paint, it just dries it up forever. So you do want to be careful with that. I'm just kind of retouching up our black a little bit, firming up those little tiny lines where there may have been just a little bit of overpaint from that gray. And then now just a little tiny touch of a bit of that white in there too. So this is my little bit brush still. I'm going to go into the white. And these are real tiny little areas to get into, so it doesn't take very long. And also, if you want to make this more of like a Christmas plaid, the mix is a pure red, just straight red, and then a crimson, and then a black. All right, very nice. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and work into our kitty cat here. So let's see, I'm trying to think what color I want to do. Because I know I'm the model, I used a black cat. I guess I could just do the black cat again. I know black cats are really popular. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of trim work here around this cute little collar, just to create an accent and also help divide it from the black. So we're gonna do a little tiny touch of some primary magenta here. Gives me time to think about my colors. I used to have a really sweet cat when I was little that was almost like a cadmium yellow color. So I'm kind of thinking about that. Her name was Daisy. And you can do a white cat, gray cat, that golden color cat, brown. All right, so I'm gonna do a little twist here into the paint. And then we're just gonna make a real thin line of this. Just to help keep it separated, because I'm still leaning towards the strong potential that I'll go ahead and do black. So it's just a nice fun border here. All right, that's looking sweet. And then let's go ahead and use a little bit of our, this is a cadmium yellow. We're gonna make that fun little gold collar, or the tag rather. All right, so there that is. And let's go ahead and take our little bit brush, grab a little bit of the titanium white, push that into the cadmium yellow. And then we're gonna go ahead and circle this around. Work that in here. And then for this stroke, I go ahead and just with a really light hand kind of lay the paint over on the flat side of the brush. And then I'll go ahead and circle back for the outline. And you can either have a fun shape in there or a name. Of course, I had the word cat written in there. That was pretty original, huh? But you could also put, I think for today, we'll wait a little bit later, let it set up and dry, but I'm probably gonna put a little heart in there. All right, very nice. Okay, so now let's mix up some more just really light pink this time. So we're gonna add a little bit more white to our primary magenta. Still using our little bit brush. And we'll go ahead and work in that tiny little nose. It kind of looks like an upside down triangle. And we always have a traceable with all of our paintings, so you never have to worry about being able to do any of this particular shape that you see here. We always have that done for you. And right now we're just working on some of our color blocking, some of the little details here. Alright, so we have a lot of fun detail here, and now I want to do those eyes. What color do I want to do that? Let's do some really pretty green eyes. Alright, so let's start with a little mix here of our Viridian. This gives a really pretty, well, you'll see here in a second, it's quite lovely. We'll just do a little pea-sized amount of that. I'm going to add some white to that and see where that takes me. I might want to add a little bit of some bright yellow green to this. But that's really pretty. That's a really pretty look. So I may just stick with that. I'm gonna give you an option. This is some bright yellow green. We'll add a little bit of this too, just to see where that takes us. All right, let's do a little touch of that. Very pretty, so we'll go ahead and keep that in there. That's nice. All right, now let's do a little twist in between our fingertips here. That little rotation will give a nice fine point to our brush, and then we'll go ahead and just kind of spin this around. Other side, same thing. All right, very bright, very pretty. There it is. And then we're about to work into all that beautiful cat color, which in this case, I think I am just kind of leaning towards the black cat, because that's how we have it in the model here. I want to make sure, see, let me check and see. Let's go see if I have it. Yeah, I do have them on my desktop. Take a look at it. Yeah, I do have a black cat there. Okay, so I have been doing so many cats this week. I'm like, which cat am I doing right now? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and work with my mama brush. She has a 1/2 inch flat here. Let's go ahead and work directly into the black paint. Just pure black paint. And then around the edges, you wanna go ahead and use that line edge of the brush. So as you load up the brush, you want to go ahead and do some firm pressure so that loads it up, but then also that firm pressure gives you a nice thin line edge, and that helps you do your cut-in work around the edges. And then we'll go ahead and cut in and around these little shapes here. So for right now, we've done a lot of the really simple color blocking that we need, and then we'll be adding in a few little extra highlights and details. And I want to make sure that I don't lose things like the little whiskers and the smile that comes out. So I am going to go ahead and, before we get too close with the black, I'm going to go ahead and give some highlights into those areas with some white, and then that way they'll at least stay gray as we work in this black all around it. So a little curve here. Getting a little closer, so I'm going to go ahead and take my little bit brush and let's go ahead and just overlay right over the top. That just helps you keep your trace in place, and then you can rework that too whenever you're done with your black. That'll make a little bit more sense here in a minute, but we're going to go ahead and continue with our black, and then we'll work in and around those little details there. And since black is just the same color through and through, and there's really no change in it as it dries, then you can go ahead and work in as much of this as you can with the bigger brush. And then you can switch over to a smaller brush as you work into the smaller areas. You don't have to worry about the color changing on you. It's not like it's a mix where sometimes you have to work very quickly because the color will change on you a little bit. Even as this sets up and dries, when you come back in later, you could come back in with the very same black and it will always blend well together. So she looks a little funny right now, but she's getting there. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the brush on this angle here, where the line edge comes towards the canvas. And then I kind of feather out those brush strokes too. Smooth those out. And again, I leave a remnant of that trace behind, but I will come back over the top of it later. So I just don't want to lose that reference to it. And of course, if your cat has different markings too, you can always leave certain places, you know, like white on the face, or you can let the black, of course, set up and dry, and then do a little bit of more textural white right over the top too. I'm going to go ahead and repaint those eyelashes. But if you're very fearful about losing the shape of those, then I would encourage you to go ahead and be more patient with the process. Leave in that little bit of white and then just retouch it at the very end as well, with like a dark charcoal gray, because that's what we'll come back in with here at the very end when we do the detail work with the accents around the eyes. Just leaving those little whiskers in place. We'll come back and touch those up here in a minute too. And I'm going to use a smaller brush here in a second to get into this smaller area here. That's going to get a little bit challenging for this big mama brush to get into. Then finishing out this little neck area here. So this is a great painting, I think, for kids or kids at hearts who love cats. Really simple. All right, I think we've got to switch over to a smaller brush now. So I'm going to go ahead and put my mama brush in the water. And then let me get my little buddy brush. This is a 1/4 inch flat here. Get into these smaller areas. Looking good. And then again, we have these areas we have to get into here. And if you feel confident with a lot of these lines here too, of course you can also just make it easier on yourself and just go ahead and paint all the way into it. I'm going ahead and leaving a small remnant here just as a guide for those of you who are pretty timid about making any kind of line work on your own. So again, if you just want to get really close to it, then that preserves it, and then you can come right back in and follow back in with your little bit brush. And that's just about what we're getting ready to do here. So I put my little buddy brush in the water. Now let's go ahead and take our little bit brush, and we're going to do a quick little twist here into the white, and that loads it up, but it also twists that point into a nice fine point. And then we're going to go ahead and make that fun little grin. And this also gives us a nice soft blend into that paint. So it really, that's pretty nice for getting that little cute little smile happening there. And then I'm washing out my brush, drying it off, and then reloading with some clean white. Because sometimes it can get so dark with that charcoal that it won't make an impact next time we come in, and we definitely want it to be a little bit more of a bright white over the surface. So we're going to make that cute little whisker, and then we drag it out and then lift off with a light hand. A little twist here, and then back into clean white paint. And then I'm going to do a little bit more of an accent over the top of the eye now. So we're getting into those really fun little details. So a little bit brush, and then our white paint. We want to make sure it's a really tiny point on the end. And then we're just going to act like we're putting on a little bit of eye makeup here, like eyeliner. And you see I picked up a lot of black, so I need to go ahead and kind of wipe that off, get a fresh load of the white. And then kind of go up at the end, little twist up. Okay, nice clean brush again. I have to clean off a lot and get into clean white, because you can see it kind of really does pick up a lot of black with each stroke. And then I'll make a few more little eyelashes here. All right, so we have some fun little eyelashes there. And then I'm going to start to add a little bit more of some white accents over the top and other places here too. So let's see, I'm going to do some here on the nose, just a little bit. And then in the ears. We'll add just a little bit of texture of white here in the little corners of the eye. And then we'll re-emphasize our black here too in a minute. So I'm going to come back in with just a little touch of the black. Again, make sure your point's really tiny on this before you go in. You want a little bit of white here at the bottom too. She's looking good. So now I want to do a little flash points in the eyes. So I'm going to take the end of my brush and go ahead and go into just a little bit of white. You can see it there on the end. And then I'm going to just apply this straight forward. Nice bright white flash point. And if it doesn't quite take the first time, you can always just dip right into it, go right back in, and get it the second time too. And now I'm going to go for a bright gold here. This is the cadmium yellow, and just right next door to that bright white light, we're going to do a little bit of this cadmium yellow. All right, very pretty. Okay. And then while I'm letting that sit up and dry a little bit, I'm going to come back in and do a cute little heart over the top of the tag. So I've got my little bit brush again and going into, this is primary magenta. And we'll just make a little heart in here. Yay. Okay, that looks good. And then I want a little bit more of some gold here to connect. Let's lay that on flat. It's a little more textural. And then we'll add a little bit of some white to come around the edge. And then you can do really fun pattern too with that white. So for example, you can take your brush handle again, we'll go into some white paint, and then we'll just do little tiny dots along our little color here. Just do this all the way across, or you could have a completely polka dotted collar. You can also make bigger dots by just using a bigger brush handle. So again, this is a really nice, fun, easy technique for beginners. It's looking good. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of our white outline here around our little color here. And I did let my paint sit up and dry just a little bit so that it didn't become too blended in with our black that was there from before. Okay, so I had a little bit of shadow to the outer part of this. Just a tiny little touch of that black, and then I get a little bit of a soft blend into that white. And then this has had a chance to set up and dry. I'm gonna add a little bit more white right around the edge there. All right, then if you want to add just a few little wispies here on the sides of the face, we'll do a little bit of that too. So taking the little bit brush and just going into that black, and just right here on the edge, we're just going to kind of take this down just a little bit. Just kind of give the look of little tiny little soft wispy cat hairs coming out. And then on this side, and the key is start at the top and then just light little strokes that kind of feel like you're making a little parentheses, and then lift off with a light hand. Then we're going to work on those ears just a little bit more white, and working back into that. This is our primary magenta and a little bit more of that white. And then let's do a little bit more of the white. And again, a little overcoat here of the primary magenta and the white, just right over the top. And then let's work in a little bit more of that pure white right over the top again. Get a nice soft blend while the paint's still wet. And kind of feather it out. Follow the shape and then just light little feather strokes. All right, then I'm going to come back in one more time, just right around the edge here with just a little bit more black. Right, and now let's do just a tiny little touch back in with my little bit brush, and a tiny little touch of the cadmium yellow. I just want a tiny little accent here. And I'm making what looks like a little tiny parentheses. And this is more of an optional step, but if you want to become really precise with the eyes, you can do little fleck points in there. And so I'm taking my little bit brush and going into a little bit of this. This is called Viridian. And here's a visual on that. And I just make what looks like little tiny little dashes. It's almost like making a very childlike sun. I used to make little like sun with sun rays all around it. And just do that. With those little tiny flecks come out. All right, she's looking really cute. I'm gonna go back over my smile again here. Grabbing a little bit more white and a little bit brush. So I wanna make that a little bit more pronounced. A little bit more of a pronounced accent with white there, and there, and there. And then I'm going to touch up my cadmium yellow here. And then we're almost to the point where we're going to be working in a little bit more of our lettering up at the top. But this is cadmium yellow, and then I'm just coming in around. This is that little cute tag at the bottom. We needed a little bit of a second coat here. Looking good. And then with your kit, of course, you have a permanent marker you can use for this. As long as it's all set up and dry, you can absolutely use this over the top. And it's actually much easier than painting, especially if you're a little concerned about having a shaky hand. Or you can certainly just paint right over the top. And if you are going to do that, here is your little bit brush. We'll dip into the black paint. And then you'll want to go over your lettering. And the main caution here is that you want to be sure that as you come around a loop in a letter, you want to make sure that you stay around the loop. And don't paint in the inside of it as you outline it, because then you can close off your loop and lose the shape of that letter. And then I think it's helpful too to go ahead and let the weight of your hand kind of rest on your pinky as you do this. That helps keep your hand steady during lettering. You can definitely see how I'm really trying to make sure I go around those loops. I want to make sure I preserve the negative space, like on the O and the L, and the E too, especially on the E because it's a really narrow space there. almost done. I felt like I could just keep reworking and reworking things, but yeah, I think we're done. She said as she went back in on the nose one more time. I found a little spot. Okay, now I think we're done. All right, cool. All right. Of course, now all we have to do is you can sign your masterpiece too, and you can do it with paint, little bit brush, or again, the kit comes with that permanent marker, so you can use that too. All right, so we have hundreds of designs for y'all to explore and look through. They make great Christmas gifts or just self-care for anytime, New Year. So very fun, easy, great stuff to work on at home. But just check that out, tipsyartist.com, and we'll be going live a lot in this week especially, and maybe even again today. But thank y'all so much for joining me today, and y'all have a wonderful day.